Hi, I'm John Renteria. You might remember me from such shows as Retro Rips. And that's it, because I'm not freaking Troy McClure. This is going to be a little bit different than most of the other videos I make on this channel because usually all I make videos about are things like cartoons, anime, manga, weeb shit. But today I'm here to talk about a very important topic. And yes, it's slightly clickbait, but it's good clickbait. Clickbait that I've been contemplating for a long time and I've never actually seen a video on YouTube talking about what I'm thinking right now. As a 90s kid, growing up, I was always told things like video games will rot your brains, cartoons are for little kids, television is complete swill. Why don't you just go read a book, you lazy piece of shit? Today, I'm here to tell you that all the parents and all the teachers who ever told you that kind of stuff were bullshitting. Video games, cartoons, and television are the superior form of media. And here are the top 5 reasons why. Number 5. As an author, I can attest to you that the most important part of writing a story is conveying your message properly to your audience. And while it is possible to some extent to convey your thoughts and feelings in a book, it's much easier to do so in a video. Let me explain. The problem with writing has always been that no matter how good of a writer you are, there are always people who are going to misconstrue your work. And this happens in videos too, but to a much lesser extent. There's just less to interpret. Sure, I could write or even read you a paragraph about how a man gets struck down by a bolt of lightning in the middle of August in the fiercest thunderstorm of his life, and how each and every bolt of lightning banged on his eardrums as though 1,000 suns had collapsed in his face. But instead of risking my audience putting the book down because they don't want to sit through a paragraph and a half of me trying to describe something like that, with a video game, or television, you could just show that same exact thing happening and people will get it just as well. And hell, the scene could take place in 5 seconds, which is like a million times faster than anybody would have been able to read that long paragraph I was trying to describe in the first place. Not only am I able to get just as much description of my story across to you, but I'm also able to do it in a much shorter span of time. Number 4. This one only applies to video games, which is why it's so low on my list, but it's still a really important point to go over. In a video game, you have options. Take Fallout 4 for example. Depending on how you play the game, you can change the outcome of the story that you're being told. And while this is possible in books, like through adventure novels where you have to flip from one page to the other, the act of flipping the page breaks immersion for me, every single time. When I'm reading a story, I want it to be fluid. I don't want to have to think about the fact that I have to jump from page 1 to page 50. Video games are very similar to this in the fact that all the stories have been pre-written out, but the fact is that the transition from going from one story to... But the fact of the matter is that transitioning your story is just much more seamless in a video game. It's not going to break your immersion. And at the end of the day, a great piece of fiction should have you immersed in it, to some extent. Otherwise, people aren't even going to be interested in the story you're trying to tell them. Number 3. Even in terms of educational material, visual and auditory media is the superior way of trying to teach people new things. For example, sure, you have textbooks like math books and history books and science books and writing and reading books and whatnot, but not everybody's going to read these books and understand what the books are trying to say. But through a video, you can explain pretty much everything you can explain in a book, but to a much greater extent. When it's coming from your mouth and going directly into somebody's ears, people just have an easier time understanding what you're trying to tell them. Which is why watching a video on theoretical science is much easier than reading a book on theoretical science. And hell, people have known this for years. Why do you think we go to school if we have all these books and textbooks at demand? Because not everybody's going to be able to learn from those books, and most people are going to need a teacher to explain it out to them. Number 3. Video games and television are much sexier than books are. Let me explain. Inevitably, it all comes back to my earlier description about the guy in the middle of the thunderstorm, except this time, think of it more from an entertainment standpoint. Now, be honest with yourself. Would you rather read that long paragraph about the man in the thunderstorm, or would you rather watch it? You would rather watch it, because watching it is better. It's more immersive. It makes you feel like the story is more real, because you're actually watching the story unfold right before your eyes, as opposed to reading it happening over a piece of text. And I'm not trying to discredit people who take that kind of time to write that kind of stuff into their stories. On the contrary, I think that people who have that kind of focus are some of the most gifted writers on the face of the earth. But the point still stands that people would rather watch it than read about it. And thus, more people are going to find out about your story because much more people find enjoyment in watching that than they would reading that. Number 1. Now, warning. What I'm about to say is going to trigger some people. But stop. Give me the benefit of the doubt before you immediately go off in rage mode and tell me about how shit my ideas are. Video games and television are the superior form of media for the simple fact that not everybody has the same reading capabilities. Now, I'm not trying to say that people who can't read are dumb or anything, but you also have to take into considerability that there are people out there with disabilities like dyslexia, or simply people who aren't necessarily as literate as other people because they haven't had the same kind of education and opportunities as other people have had. Getting your story across to them is much easier if you're trying to do it through video and auditory means. It's a sad matter of fact, but not everybody is going to comprehend the story you're trying to tell if you tried telling it through a book. The point of storytelling, at least in my opinion, some people like to think that you need to be all vague and shit and try to hide your message as much as possible. But for me, the key to being a great storyteller is your ability to convey what you're feeling on the inside to the outside you. If you have not done that properly, you have failed as a storyteller. If people don't understand what the fuck is going on, how can you say that it's good? It's not. It's garbage. Ergo, a great storyteller should be able to reach as many people as possible with the story he's trying to tell. Sure, I could write a story that people of really, really high intellect will like and enjoy, and they'll claim that it's the greatest story on earth. But how many people are actually going to get what you're trying to say? If I'm just trying to appeal to people who are on my level, who understand things as well as I understand them, all I'm really doing is pandering to a very small audience of people. But on the other hand, through visual media, I can reach a much wider range of people. At least, that's my 2 cents on the matter. At the end of the video, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. You don't necessarily have to comment because, YouTube comments are garbage, but like and subscribe. Peace.